So we have the roll. So commissioners present, Mary Elizabeth Hines, Mandy Rothman, virtually, Cynthia Mason, virtually,
Present.
and Joe. Is Joe present? Yeah. And Mandy. And so that gives us a quorum to start our meeting. Okay. So we are moving to the public comments.
That would be me, right?
Joe said something in the chat.
She's having some technical
Okay.
issues.
And then we have, Hal Hovey attending. Gideon is here representing the city. And then we have our council advocate, Eric Marshall, and
City Engineer Alex Warren
city
as a guest.
guest, Alex Warren. City engineer.
Hal, when are you just going to come join the Arts Commission? You're here more than any of us.
It's the commitment piece, he doesn't have to.
Yeah, I was actually here last week when it was the second Thursday of the month when I thought it was supposed to be held, but it wasn't held. So I don't know.
And is McKaylee from the city also?
Yes, yeah.
And is that the right way to say
Mikhail.
McHale?
Yeah.
Think so?
Administrative assistant in the city.
So, do we have any public comments?
No.
Yes, I
No?
have a public comment. So I don't know if you have read over the results of the city council retreat where they established their long-term goals. They were talking about it in the workshop yesterday. And one of the things that was at the very bottom of their list, in fact, the very last thing on their list, was communication. And I have been beating this somewhat dead horse for years, but we need to improve communication. And one way we can do that, I see that this meeting is being recorded. I'm hoping that the goal is to get these recordings of the Arts Commission up on YouTube as they started doing with last week's Parks Board meeting. So I realize it requires some budget, but the city needs to step up and budget for these improved communications. We have at least 4 new commissioners, council people, I'm sorry, on city council, most of whom campaigned on a platform of improving communication with the city. One way to do that is to put these things out in the public. The other thing I would like to say is about announcing when these meetings are going to happen. There was nothing on the calendar for Arts Commission until after I missed last week's meeting. I mean, I showed up for last week's meeting, but it wasn't held last week, even though it's supposed to be held on the second Thursday of the month. And so I didn't know if there was going to be one this month. There wasn't one last month. I showed up last month as well. So we really need to have these things forecast out in the calendar more in advance instead of waiting until the week of, so that people really know if there's going to be a meeting when it says it's scheduled to be or whether it's not. So anyway, bottom line, we need to improve communication so that the members of the public can attend these meetings, or more importantly, so that the members of the Arts Commission can go back to the council and say, look, we have it on the calendar. We made the Facebook announcements. We have it on YouTube. If people don't like what we do, it's not because we haven't tried to communicate with them what it is we're doing. Thank you.
Seems pretty simple. So can we have a
Yeah.
place where we get to address that with the council on how we can get that communication uploaded to YouTube for our recording meetings?
I believe that's what our plan is, these recordings.
So was that plan like tentative, in the future, immediate?
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Hi. As you said, I'm Mikhail Finkel. I'm the executive assistant in the office of the mayor. And yes, we are attempting to get all of our board and commission meetings taped. We are recording right now via the Ring Central because, like Hal said, we don't have a videographer that could come in and live stream every meeting. So we're using the tools we have available, which is the Ring Central. So we will be recording the meetings on Ring Central each month. And then our communications manager will be putting some cover slides, I guess you would say, and posting them. So they will all be available on the city's YouTube channel, just as we did with the Parks Board starting last month. So that is
So
our goal.
It will be monthly. And then for our part, as a commission, we need to be more available and as far as when we make changes to our plans, our dates for our calendar, so how do we make sure that that happens?
Guess I'll
So,
go through. Yep. Okay.
well, I'll just take one stab at this. One of the projects that the city clerk's office is working on this year also is to get our boards and committees more consistent with their agendas, with making minutes available, so that we will be coming up with a process for everyone as to when agendas are going to be posted prior to the meeting. We will also be asking that boards and committees each January have like a structural or organizational meeting where they are reviewing bylaws. They can be, if you want to select a new chair, that type of information. And at that time, we will also be asking them to put out, as council does, a regular meeting schedule. If those meetings can be canceled or changed, as long as you meet the number of times of bylaws. But if we have a regular meeting schedule set, that will, provide some of that transparency. And then, like I said, we can always issue a cancellation notice, or if it needs to be moved or a special meeting needs to be added. So we are working towards organizing all of that.
So that, Cynthia had something.
Oh, she just pointed out that we meet every other month. We've been doing that since for a while. Last May.
We just need to communicate that. Okay. And so I guess it's at the end of the public comment. So then we are calling the meeting to order.
And, oh, sorry.
If I call the meeting to order, because I haven't done this before,
Yeah.
so is someone supposed to first that or second that? Or just, we're calling the meeting to order and I'm the boss?
Yeah, I think you're just calling
Okay.
it to order.
The meeting's to order now. Chop chop. Okay. So we're covering old business. That goes back to May of here. And we had subcommittee projects. And we had the January planning session that ironically, that Mikhail just alluded to, that will come potentially commission-wide to all commissions, not just to the Arts Commission. I guess that's the plan for the city. So we celebrate our accomplishments. We fill vacant positions. I'm one of those positions. Mandy is another one of those positions. And then we had the last meeting that I attended, we had one more commissioner added. So we had 3 in 12 months. And so is that makes it 8 or 7?
I believe we're at 7.
Okay. So we have 7 commissioners now
So it's a full house.
for the Arts Commission. So we've improved our communication apparently with each other and the city and being more active with the council in the city. That has been happening. I think that comes along with the newer commissioners. And then we have on the agenda today.
Miss Mary,
Yeah,
we need to approve our minutes from May.
thank you.
You're welcome.
The minutes for me in here. Thank you. So our minutes from May. Did everybody have a chance to look at these? And are there any discrepancies that anyone wants to update? We have all commissioners are present. There were no public comments. The meeting was called to order at 1600. We were then approving January 2022 minutes. We reviewed the financials, and Johanna Hansen as the new commissioner, and everyone else introduced themselves. And then we had the action item for the autumn winds lighting and the approval of the $2,359.10 for the Creative Arts Fund to the Parks Department for autumn winds electrical repair. And the motion was by Commissioner Mason and seconded by Commissioner Kroon. And the motion was carried for the approval of those special items. Discussion, we had a discussion of the push-up cups for Sumner Park, and we would think about that and discuss it at a later meeting. So that's the push-up cups. And so we'll look at that. And then we discussed the Kennebrew sculpture at Sumner Park, and we decided to remain with the plan. And then we adjourned our meeting at 17:30. Does anybody have any updates or changes that they might want with the May meeting minutes?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
And
I do have one change. It wasn't
Sure.
the January minutes that we approved. It would be the March ones.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So we need to update that. That was a March. So correction that the notes for the previous meeting approval were not from January, but for the March 2022 meeting, not January 2022. Okay. And so we would update that. So can we approve? Or we have to wait to update that?
Yeah, you could approve with as edited or
Okay. We will edit
as amended.
or amend the date for number 4 for the approval of the meeting minutes from the previous meeting, which was March 2022. And so Cynthia first and Mandy second to approve the meeting minutes.
May I have to ask a question? Sure. All in favor?
Oh, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Mandy? Aye. 2. Any opposed? Sound of silence. Don't know. Okay. Thank you. Okay. And we're back down to the subcommittee projects. Driftwood Days are on the agenda today. Staff is reconnecting with Main Street program, and the skate park is on another police department item. And then additional work, additional interpretation, windmill at New Holland Park, and Windjammer artwork, and survey of the community. I think that some of this, because we don't have a full group of people to really address, I don't think that we're able to really pull out a lot of the information that we would need to address these subcommittee projects. Does anybody else feel differently about that?
No, I can give an update, Mary, on the put-in cups. It's kind of on my table. I've been emailing the company with no response. So, and unfortunately, my husband and I have been on the COVID lockdown thing. So I hope to join the real world next week.
Okay.
And it's my intention to get on the phone and call them and try to talk to a live person because I've just been working through the website.
Okay, and so do we have a time limit on where we would want to stop trying to pursue them if they're not responding?
I suppose, let me go ahead and give them a call and see what kind of response I get from them, and I'll report next meeting.
Okay. And was someone working on the Driftwood Days?
No, I asked Gideon to put that on the agenda because I think as I tend to do, we'll bring up something and I go down a different rabbit hole, but I couldn't remember if the group wanted to go forward with having Driftwood Days or not. And the history of the event that I can share, I've only been to one, and it was the first year I joined the commission. Carla has been involved with this since conception, from the previous group at the table. But then we decided not to have it because the group wanted to try to have it the same weekend as the Oak Harbor Music Festival to try to pull people down to the waterfront while they were here in town. And then decided that we didn't have the manpower to do that with the music festival going on. So it didn't happen in 2021. So I wasn't sure. I mean, I suppose we can table the conversation to have it until we have all the players at the table, Mary, but that's why I had asked him to put it on the agenda for this meeting.
So then I think we can table that for next time to have a discussion about how we would move forward with that.
Yes, and Gideon looped in Cece at the chamber, and it almost was an underlying question from the chamber that begged me to ask if they wanted to take over the event. And their response was they weren't ready to do that with everything else on their calendar at this point. But I think that was kind of the idea of it, was to spawn this event and then have another community group take a hold of it. So again, we can talk further when the other three are at the table.
If it's gonna be tabled to the next meeting, that will be till September, correct?
Correct. That's what I was about to mention.
Late to do this year.
Right. And it's already late in the planning also, but at least we can, even if we table it, we can look how we're gonna pre-plan for the next year. Because we have to at least
Well, and that's
be ahead of it.
And that's
And be
the thing
proactive.
that we should probably be discussing in our January kind of like our plan for the year, is those events like that. I agree. It's late in the game to be trying to put it together, and I don't know how much capacity many of us have with coming off of COVID and things like that. So, but I would just hope that we discuss it in our January planning, so then we can get ahead of it for 2023.
One thing we could also consider or discuss in January is having a private project manager come in and oversee the whole thing. So we're not tapping city staff or chamber staff.
Project manager for what?
For Driftwood Days.
Hmm.
Is that what it's called? Yeah.
So I guess along the way, maybe in September, we would want to even think about, have the discussion if that's something that we would even want to continue. before we get to the part where we have a project manager thought.
Yeah.
So first, let's see if we want to do it, and then go to the part to see how that would happen. So I guess for September, that should be something that we talk about if that's like some move forward. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we could all at the next meeting in September have some items listed that we might want to look at listing and then talking about keeping or checking off. If people have ideas about things that they might want us to be involved in or have, and instead of like, oh, next month, and so we're not last minuting types of things and we're ahead of it, and so we're being a lot more proactive instead of reactive to these situations. So we can move on to the next item. Does anybody have any? So we have the staff reconnecting with Main Street program, and who was involved with that?
That's just me. So
Okay.
talking to Margaret Moore and,
Okay.
and whatnot, Margaret Livermore,
Okay.
and other folks like on design committee and whatnot. So no specific projects, but making connections with other organizations.
I think again, this would be something that we would be at like September through January, looking at what we would be able to do. Because there's a lot, it seems like there's a lot of transitioning happening with lots of us. Anybody have any thoughts on that? On the Main Street program and being put along with the Driftwood Days as a discussion piece for the next item table?
I think
Anyone?
Mayor, I think all of that is part of the special session planning for the following year. And maybe we
Okay.
have our special session in November rather than January, so we're planning for 2023 before it's here. Because if we're going every other month, we'd be July, September, November.
And then January. So by January, we would be all listed and ready to
Yeah,
go.
including schedules of our meetings.
Right. Okay, so these next items, including the skate park, which apparently is on another police department issue, so that wouldn't be something that we would have to roll with. Right? So we can remove that if it's already on somebody else's list of things to do,
Mhm.
or that they're already doing.
Well, and to kind of go back to what to Cynthia's suggestion at our last meeting was that, for if we are all bringing those passion projects to the table by November, so we can get a tentative list of what those small low hanging fruit items and then big projects and events, then we'd have more capacity to be able to say that as of January, this is our plan for the year. So if we're committing that in our September meeting, like we are going to carve out some time to talk about this is what we're expecting in our November meeting, then we'll be better set for 2023, because I want to make sure that we're all still holding space for those things, whether it be like the vinyl wrap or just smaller things that we're all kind of, trying to passionately bring to the table. Or what was it? You called it, Cynthia, your spark or something like that. So if we're all making sure that like that's our onus, that's our responsibility to be bringing this no later than November, then we can get a better plan come January.
So I like your passion project statement. So I think these pieces 3, 4, and 5 on the agenda, the Driftwood Days, the Main Street program, the skate park, and then even this additional interpretations on the additional work, like all these pieces to bring up. Does anybody have any input? I'm skipping down to the survey of the community. Do we have any input on that?
No, but if I can just back up, Mandy, we still need to get together because we were going to put together a form everyone could use for those projects. So we were bringing information in a more uniform fashion about a little bit of research on what our idea was. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So it helps if we're like, we do have the every other month meeting. That way, in between other, we can get together and then have these other subcommittee types of meetings to put stuff together to present at the next meeting. Does that look kind of structurally how we can get things together? Because I get lost in what we're doing. Admittedly, I'm going to be honest. Like, what am I doing? Oh, I'm supposed to be doing that. And so, because they kind of get thrown out, and then we don't get to meet, or we don't plan to meet and make dates at the moment. We don't handle it in the moment because and then when we leave out of our meetings, because we're all busy, we're bombarded with something else in life that pulls us away from it. So we need to, like, I think, hardline inside of the meeting what we're going to do before we leave and commit to it, so that we commit our space to the Arts Commission before we walk out the door. So I like that we have that month in between to get it together and have meetings. So like Cynthia's saying, if you guys have a forum to get together, and then in September we have some document available to be able to fill in at the time with the passion projects, the passion project forum. So
well, and I absolutely agree. And I just want to like remind us all that we still haven't really done any movement on something that we talked about. Gosh, I want to say last fall, and that was pictures and write-ups and all of that stuff to be able to give to Sabrina for the artwork in the community. And so we created these, we created a spreadsheet, and we created the tasks that people can assign themselves to, and then it just stalled. And so I absolutely think that we need some kind of standardized form on, like, this is what we're presenting, this is our passion project. But also remembering that we still need to button up a lot of shit that we haven't handled yet.
Right. And I think we have to, in those meetings, like, say what we're doing, and then like make the time to stay after and say, this is your number, this is my number. We have to talk within the rules of the forum and all of that, but make sure that we are holding our responsibilities that we say that we're going to do, not because we don't want to, but because we just don't have a format. In actuality, we don't have a format except the one that Gideon is providing when he gives us data. And then we are not following through.
Well, and Mary, not to go down that road too far, but let's remember that everybody sitting around this table, for the 3 years that I've been involved, and Carla for the 7 years or whatever her tenure is, we've watched an Excel spreadsheet with artwork that the city owns and waiting and waiting and waiting for installation. We have no control over staff's time in getting installations done. We can only watch the calendar go by and hear the reasons why it's not happening. But to bring passion projects and these low-hanging fruit ideas, at least we could feel like we're making a little bit of a difference. So I agree with all of it.
Right. Right. I agree. Yeah.
What installation projects are we waiting on?
I mean,
all the Joseph Kennebrew collection. So it's about 4 of these sculptures that are just sitting behind Public Works.
And then we identified where they're going to go.
Yeah, we've identified where they're going to go. But now there's an issue of, are the welds secure enough? So that's what I have on the agenda today, is to have welding inspector come out and inspect the welds. And I did it times 2, so it's $950 for him to look at all of these and then do an inspection. And then my thought is have them re-welded, have them come out again, give it the okay, and then have them repainted. And then hopefully installed.
And Gideon, you're on number 7 now on the agenda. Okay.
yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Can we skip down we've kind of covered the first page.
Yeah.
And skip to we talked about the
Well,
put-in cups.
Actually, Gideon, you have action items in number C there for budget approvals for Lou, Verena, and Pat McVeigh need some additional time. Do you have numbers on that for us?
Well, I was going to let folks discuss it. I was thinking maybe 150 per person, just to kind of pay for their time, for me interviewing Verena, and for Pat for developing that Easter egg coloring page for the acorn, and then Lou Lombard or Larry Campbell or somebody doing the talk that you mentioned,
Mhm.
Cynthia.
So what was Lou Lombard? And I'm just going to be half the time I'm like not sure what we're talking about because I'm the newer. So these are things that have been ongoing. So I need to
So
just be
Mary, I
more.
asked Gideon to reach out to Lou, who is a storyteller with, is he with Swinomish, Gideon?
I don't know what tribe he's from.
But I've heard Lou talk a few times. He's come down to Palmdale Shores and he's given a presentation on the beach side about the history. And he also did a presentation at Leadership Whitby's class, Arts and Cultures Day. And I thought it would be very, very beneficial for the commissioners to grasp a really nice understanding of the history of our tribes here as we go forward with the second phase of Windjammer Park, and hopefully giving them a voice at the table as a stakeholder of what they would like to see as art representation of their presence here.
And that this hasn't happened. This
Yeah.
is just
Right.
so this hasn't happened. This is proposed.
Yeah.
Proposed.
Gideon's proposing that we approve $150 per person. That's giving us additional time. Right, Gideon?
Yeah.
Additional time.
That's fair. When we have to go to the council for any dollars spent, we don't have a budget of any kind without having to go to council. So I'll go ahead and make the motion to ask council for up to, why don't we say up to $500 for special guests fees? How's that?
Okay. So I'm fine. My knowledge level of where these people fall. I know the Verena because we did with the sculpture with the Tau. So I know the Tau. Lou Lombard would be for what piece or just in general?
He's our storyteller
For
our tribes.
For the tribes. At any given time.
Right.
Okay. And Verena, and then Pat McVeigh for additional time that he put into that. Okay. I haven't been asking these questions, and it's embarrassing that I haven't, because I'm just kind of like have been floating through without true knowledge of what's our understanding, and I need to do a better job. So I'll be asking more questions, not because I am pushing, but just because I just really need to understand where
You're not
things
pushing.
sit.
We'll answer anything we can.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
So I did make a motion to ask city council for up to $500 to spend up to $500 for special guest fees. How's that?
Okay.
Second?
I second.
Can you second when you're chairing the meeting? Okay,
Can I don't know. Yeah.
thank you.
I learned so much today.
Has to vote.
So before you do the discussion, I will ask the question here, council. I still don't fully understand what Lou Lombard is doing. I understand he's a storyteller, but what are we telling stories for?
It's more than a storyteller. I think it's more of an opportunity to gain understanding of the history of our tribes here, Eric, as I see a real need for some type of installation, like we did for the founders down in the park. I think as we go into the second phase of Windjammer, you'll see that's part of my passion project checklist is to have a true partnership with someone from the tribe or tribes or whatever department or group that they want to bring to the table so we can get a piece done for them in our second phase of the park.
So at my last Windjammer Park Steering Committee meeting, we had 2 members of the Swinomish tribe present. They were part of the people at the table helping us decide, kind of what the next phases are. Is that going to be? Is bringing Lou to the table going to muddy the waters with the other 2 people we've already had?
No, because I think it's more of an education opportunity for our commissioners. I could be way off base, but I just thought it would be beneficial for everybody to get a nice understanding of the history.
Okay.
Well, that's nice to hear they were there, Eric.
What's that? Yes, they were. Yeah, it was good to have them here.
Okay, so now, turning the page, we talked.
I have to ask for the
No,
vote.
I'll have to ask for-
All in favor?
All in favor of the $500 special guest fees request from the council? All in favor? Anybody? Aye. Not in favor. Mandy is not in favor. Joe is not. I don't know. Mandy,
Yes?
should we approve my? Okay.
Joe has to vote.
So we don't have consensus on
Joe,
that.
you have to vote.
That was not there.
Oh, Joe, you lose your horn.
Oh, she's having technical problems.
Well, type.
That's right. Here, I'll do the chat. Here we go. No.
If she can't hear, then she didn't hear.
No.
Ask her, did she hear?
I would say the speakers or folks for
Additional request for $500 for special guest fees.
under 5C.
Yeah, the last time I did it. Oh, poker.
Need some water, Mary?
Huh?
How are you doing in water? Would you like a
Oh, no, I
so there's okay. So there's
like,
You look dehydrated.
Now she's on. If she's not on, we won't have a quorum.
Oh,
I'll just find out. And
Hey, Gideon.
Yeah.
I need to excuse myself from the meeting, so thank you for having me.
Alex, it's always so great to see you.
thank you, Alex.
I'll catch up with you tomorrow.
Hi, Alex.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're
You got disconnected.
so we don't have a form at this point. So we cannot.
Time to. We can actually, since we have Mikhail here, we could bring Mikhail's item up since it's not an action item and discuss non-action items. We just can't
Make
do
any votes or
any kind
anything.
of action. Yeah.
And what is Michelle's item?
Hers is the bylaws.
Do something with that motion now, since it's kind of just out there. I'll go ahead and, Mary, if you withdraw your second, I'll withdraw it from the table at this meeting.
And I'll
Okay, I'll
withdraw.
withdraw the motion.
Okay.
So Mikhail, you want to?
Sure. Good afternoon again. This kind of goes along with what I was discussing earlier. One of the things, as we are trying to get the boards and committees all consistent, we would like you all to take a look at the bylaws, and if there are any suggested changes, we could discuss those as a group at the next meeting. And we would like to bring any revisions before City Council, kind of as a group with the other committees, by the end of the year. So this was just kind of an introduction. I've looked at your bylaws. Unlike some of the other committees who haven't been updated since the 70s, you guys have had some more recent bylaws. I think I saw at least 2012. So I think what we'll do is share those with you via email. And if you take a look and plan for the next meeting, we can have an action item to discuss those and decide if there's any revisions that are needed to
Gideon,
put forth.
didn't we revise our bylaws recently? I don't have my whole binder with me, but I think there was a more recent update. Is it the intention of the city to redo or to review these annually, Mikhail?
Yeah, it's one of the things we'd ask to do annually. But like I said, there are some boards and commissions that have not had updates since the 70s, and their terms are all, not what they're practicing now. So I'm looking at your bylaws in the code. Yeah, some of the more recent changes I see is an ordinance in 2012. But again, I'll go ahead and send out what we have in the code, and we can work from there at the next meeting.
I thought there was a revision about 2 years ago where you changed the name and a bunch of other things.
I agree, Hal. I'm just trying to flip through my scribbles to see if I can find it. Mikhail, if I find the
You know
date-
what? You're right. Here's the creation of the Arts Commission was a 2017 ordinance. So that section is a one-sentence section that talks about the name. That was, changed in 2017.
I'll look through my minutes or my notes, and if I see something after that, Mikhail, I'll just email you.
Okay. And so that's all I had for my item.
Okay. So we don't have any more action items. And
I I was just going to, the one thing that's come up is, which will be actually at a next meeting. Maybe we'll schedule it for like a next week or the week after. Because I would like to get it done sooner than later. It's a land survey for Packet Bay's Acorn. It was just kind of brought to my attention last week that since it's in a FEMA flood zone, we need to do a
Insurance.
yes, we have to do a
Oh my God.
elevation certification for it. So yeah, it's just unfortunate that it's not an issue of the money; it's more of an issue of the time.
The
and
elevation cert, there's no elevation cert at that location.
It's on sewer
There-
plant property. Why
I
don't
think
they
there
just use the one from the sewer plant?
That's all they need.
That's exactly what our engineers are asking, and it's because of our development services department. So our engineering will just keep
Well, that
grinding on them about it. But
the elevation is not cheap. That's no.
Yeah.
It's no. That's
It's $1,000. I have them done for properties all the time.
Yeah, that's what I mean though. It's like it's not like you just go and get it. It's $5. It's and they could grandfather it off of. They can grandfather it off of whatever's there already.
And they did it for the Angel.
Yes.
So I just don't understand why this one now requires a survey. And it's a frustrating thing, this inconsistencies.
Who advises that it requires a survey?
This would be under our development services
Is that outside, third party, or in the city?
in the city.
So then are they inconsistent with their own processes and procedures?
It's kind of, yeah.
That's problematic. It's good for one and it's not good for the other.
Yeah.
So we have differing reasons or differing things at different places at different times, depending on who signs it. Was there different management at the time?
Mary, you are waking up today.
Because this is insurance. I'm like, no. It doesn't change. That's what I'm saying.
As soon as I got wind of it, I was like, this is the discussion I'm going to be having with the Arts Commission is about these inconsistencies. And Cynthia, who's thankfully still on the line, you brought it up before regarding permitting, where we have to go and jump through all these hoops with this project, but this other project doesn't require anything. Like,
And that's why I'm asking again, is there a different manager on this project or responsibility? Is there a different department? Is there a different section? Is there a different crew? Who's making the decisions and then who's on top
We
of
would
those
have to
decisions that
do a
makes
whole
makes
meeting
it-
on that pyramid, Mary, because I had even listened to a
So we
presentation
shouldn't
that
have to
Cap
have a
did.
whole meeting.
And according to Cap, it depends on what type of project it is on which avenue it takes, all of which we've never seen a checklist for.
Still on the same project.
But you're right, there are a lot of inconsistencies. It depends on the project. I mean, we can look back at like the bench that was put in the park. I mean, that was the Parks Department all of a sudden putting a bench in the park, and it didn't go anywhere. It didn't come to any of it. I'm not saying
It's
it's
a
not
different
ideal, the
department doing a
memorial
different
bench,
job.
but when I'm saying that's just an example. And then so it's the splashing,
Is it-
the little sea lion that got gifted back. It was installed out by the pool now. Well, the pool is on a leased land from the city. So did they have to go through legal to get an MOU done so they can install it like we've been having to do with Boys and Girls Club? I mean, it makes for a lot of animosity and frustration.
But it's inconsistent, and then process and procedurally, it leaves you open to then continuously having issues that are legalities. Because now, if you've also put in a situation where you have an artist who you follow through, and now if this artist wanted to have a problem, now the city is exposed because of its inconsistencies.
yeah, or the fact that if it takes now a month longer. So it's not that bad, but we're taking up space in this artist studio. And could
It costs-
even,
it's still a cost. It's a cost of time and it's a cost of money. But then it's also, again, without even the cost of time and money, it is still in the long term. That's the short term effect. But in the long term effect, we continue as a city, not just for the Arts Commission, but for everyone who has something going on, the inconsistencies. And then again, we are spinning our wheels and then we fall out from, then we, like Cynthia says, then we end up with this animosity or these types of things where you have one side who says, what are you doing? And the other side is, you're not letting us do anything. And then in the middle, there's some bureaucratic guy who's just looking up at the ceiling going, look at them. Okay, but because nobody knows why. So I'm glad that Eric is here, because it's like, it's not that we just came up with this
Gideon,
problem.
is there anything we can do to support you with that process? Or, okay.
well, luckily I've got Steve Schuler on my side, and also Alex. Of course, he took off. Alex and the whole engineering department. When I brought it up at our staff meeting on Monday, they were just like, "What? You're kidding me!" And hopefully they can go to bat, for us, and especially Steve, because he's at the director level. Get this resolved.
Is it coming from David? Is it coming from David?
It's come from Ginger.
Really?
The building is plans examiner.
Yeah. That's
Again, that consistency in underwriting, if that's the job of that person, who I have no idea who they are, if you are underwriting a situation, then all things are going to be consistent, because you cannot underwrite based on variables that don't exist.
So there's already a high water or FEMA certificate or whatever you called it for the wastewater and for the Angel statue.
Elevation certificate.
Elevation certificate.
Yep. Yeah, that whole property.
Ooh, fiery.
The whole property was surveyed.
Now, wouldn't that ultimately be David's decision as head of development services?
I believe so. So yeah, we could talk to him, or I can. Or have Steve talk to him.
I think that would be most appropriate is for Steve to talk to him. If the certificate's already in hand, then say we already have it for this site. Ginger's a reasonable person, and she's doing a lot to try to make things consistent. I mean, I've worked with her several times already, and I find her to be phenomenally talented. But yeah, if we could just kind of point out these inconsistencies and modify them.
And maybe she doesn't know that
Exactly.
there's
Yeah.
a different.
Yeah. Because she's relatively new. She's only been in the last year. So she's relatively new in that position, but she certainly is understanding, and she's been working with me on creating consistencies just from my own property, my own project. And so, and she's been really good at that. I'm kind of surprised.
So now I come down and maybe she doesn't know that there was a decision made or something happened previously. So historically, she doesn't have a background on it. And so moving forward, and if this has already been in place, which is understandable that going forward, these are the types of things that she would do versus what would happen before, then we can maybe find a line of communication or consensus that would be able to satisfy everyone.
Right.
Yeah, I think Ginger.
Oh, she's great to work with. I absolutely really adore working with.
Okay. So, one thing that someone brought to me, the public brought to me, was a question about who would clean the founder's plaque in Windjammer Park. I don't know if that's an Arts Commission thing, but I know that we had some slight discussion about maintenance of installations, and there's a founder's plaque in the park that is pretty cruddy looking.
Okay.
And that was a member of the public that reached out to me
It's
yesterday.
my
actually.
understanding, Mary, that the
So-
Parks Department doesn't have any process for maintenance on any of our installations at this point, and they're working on it. I don't know if that means that ultimately the Arts Commission will be tagged for X amount of dollars on artwork, or how that's going to be budgeted through the budgeting process with the city. But I don't know, Eric, in my opinion, it's the Parks Department at this point in time. I had suggested to Don Crawford that he launch an adopt a piece of art program like Adopt a Park, so the community can get involved in a structure and help keep it clean. But
Which probably brings us back to what Mandy was talking about, the things that we shelved last fall about, what was it? Having like a QR code and stuff like that. And then, like you said, Cynthia, adopting, and then groups being able to go out and then also kind of give some maintenance to these things. So anyway, again, back to this, we're back to September again. So with that.
Just to speak to what you mentioned, Cynthia, I actually kind of see it the other way. If the Arts Commission is purchasing these pieces and then putting and installing them, I have a hard time with saying, well, here's a piece of artwork, and now the city, it's your problem. You have to maintain it. You have to pay for it. I think that maintenance should be part of any kind of new installation or new art purchase, that the Arts Commission should have a budget for maintaining that piece, as opposed to just saying, okay, city, we gave it to you and now it's your responsibility to maintain it, because there just isn't the funding for that maintenance right now.
But I think this wasn't art. I think this was a plaque.
No, we were talking about art.
With that one.
Yeah.
Okay, mine was.
But it would be in the same vein, I think. If that was an Arts Commission piece, then it would be in the same vein.
Yeah, and right now they're not getting anything.
Right.
And that's
And that's detrimental to the pieces and to the work the Arts Commission's already done. But I do like the idea of adopting a piece or adopting a park. I'm not opposed to. The city has lots of parks, and at some point I'd love to see the city donate a park for a sculpture garden. And that way we have a city sculpture garden. It would be easier then to maintain as well, because you have a bunch of pieces in one location.
So the
Looks like Hal.
just from reading the chat comments, it looks like the founder's plaque isn't an Arts Commission project. So would it even be an Arts Commission asset? I just asked, just from like we've talked before about like liability issue in our insurance for our sculptures and things like that. And I agree with Eric that if it's something that the Arts Commission holds that piece, then I feel like even just tasking out the maintenance to someone else really brings up a question of if there's a liability issue, who handles it from there. But it looks like Hal, you can add some context, and Cynthia, you as well. It's not an Arts Commission. It's not an art piece.
The founder's plaque is next to the founder's statue, but that was all a project run by Sue Carhalos, and I'm not sure what organization she worked with on that, but I don't remember it being an Arts Commission issue. I remember it coming up at Parks Department meetings. I remember it coming up a bunch at City Council meetings, but I don't remember it coming up at Arts Commission meetings. I certainly don't think Arts Commission was behind it, but Carla would know and Sue Carhalos would know.
And shouldn't there be an MOU if a private party or a private organization brought this to fruition and it's on city property? I would imagine that there would be some kind of MOU in place that would address any kind of long-term asset holding piece of it.
Well, there are city council resolutions. I remember that.
And it would be nice to see that type of library being built, Mandy, on each a piece. The history, what path it had to take to get there would help identify some of these inconsistencies.
So then I have a really dumb question because obviously we can't, solve that problem like long-term right now. Is there any kind of restriction or code or anything like that keeping private citizens from cleaning that up? And I ask because I'm dumb and I
No, and that question, I've been trying to attend Parks Board's meetings virtually just for our group to have an ear in there. And that question was proposed to Don Crawford before he left, because there was citizens that wanted to go in and just pick up trash in Windjammer Park or, as an example. And there's no hard, fast rule against saying no, but you don't want someone just to approach a piece of art with the wrong solutions either. Right, so his comment was, well, if we had a procedure on how to clean the founder statue and someone said, hey, we want to clean the founder statue, we've got 2 hours of free time, they could hand them how it's done, so it's done properly. I'm sure there's probably a hold harmless test sign too, so the liability of injury while volunteering is held harmless. So Mary, can we just go through, most of the other things on the agenda are discussion.
We had, again, they had the Acorn project, the towel storyboard, the skateboard project, the art website.
Well, and
new
Mary,
business, we
you
were
worked on the
looking at
towel,
the
Gideon, back up a little bit.
So the towel storyboard with Verena, I just added just a couple of words, just to expand it a little bit more, to give it a little bit more visual. I literally think added strategically like 3 or 4 words.
Mm-hmm.
It was fine in the bulk of it, and then the editing of what Gideon had put, but then the editing to give it more of a flow. That it was an artistic piece, that it then gave it a little bit more softness and feeling. I think that's what my goal was. It was just a softening and giving a little bit more vision to what the artist was saying.
Do you have to ask, we have to ask for money to get that printed? The storyboard's already there, so it's just the piece that gets installed.
I don't know about the storyboard and what money and printing.
Oh, yeah. So we already have the money approved. I believe it's around, it's less than $700. It's like $680 from Humphrey Signs. It's kind of an odd size. It's 50 by 20. But from my understanding of it, we just send them the text and some photographs, and they will come up with a sign and also install it. I did send it to Sabrina just to kind of ask some clerical questions, like putting the city's logo on it. Also maybe including language like this project was completed using the Creative Arts Fund. Something along those lines.
Some more details to give more expanding for the community.
Yeah, like the fine print kind of stuff. But that's it. And then I meet with Verena next week just to kind of finalize things. And then from there, I'm guessing maybe you'll have to go under council's nose, or can I just take it to the sign shop or here? Those are things.
I think it sounds like any application of funds has to for council. It sounds like.
Okay.
Yeah, and you correct me if I'm wrong. It's just what it sounds like. And is that by design? I mean, why doesn't the Arts Commission have a certain amount that they can spend without having to go to council first?
That's something that I'm working with David Goldman on.
Okay.
Absolutely. Like one thing that was mentioned was on this agenda was doing the Music Fest. I guess every year we've funded 2 tables for Music Fest.
Okay.
It's like stuff like that could be in the budget instead of going to council and asking for
Yeah, like $500 for
Yeah.
speakers. I mean, if you guys want to, it's in your budget. If you want to spend it, spend it. You know.
Yes.
And so yeah, I don't see a reason why you couldn't have a discretionary fund. You could spend up to a certain amount without having to get council approval.
Great.
It saves time. I mean,
It would save so much time.
Yes, and that's my biggest issue is that
Yeah.
it's time, and then I mean we have about 200,000 in our coffers
Right.
that's just sitting there,
And it
and
can't be spent on anything else. So
Yeah.
why have to come to council all the time for us just to green light it, move it along? When if you had a discretionary budget, you could spend up to a certain amount.
we,
You've been selected to be on the commission. We should empower you guys to do what you need to do.
yes, yeah, and even I was thinking with the subcommittees, each subcommittee having like $500.
Sure.
So if you want to buy chalk or whatever,
Right.
just give you receipts.
Right.
yes.
But, okay, great, Eric, I appreciate it.
So that's something action for next time to request, or you're working on that request?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we could access agenda and have a budget.
Like a request in writing, so that it's in writing, and so like down the road, 3 years from now, who said they could have money?
Exactly. Yeah. No, it has to be in there. Yeah.
Sounds good.
We obviously are not, and if I'm wrong, not going over new business because these
Mary,
are
can we
action
back up?
items.
I want to know
maybe?
what Gideon was thinking about the staff video for the item number 11, art website.
Staff video for the Angel of
The
Creativity.
Acorn.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Sabrina approached me about doing a video about the angel and just kind of saying this is where it is going to be located, and also showing a picture of it now that it's repainted in white, that it's not going to be red. Hoping that might kind of calm down some of our citizens a little bit. And Acorn, we've got some really cool photographs of the Acorn, just like in process. It's a good video. And I just think that would be great for a website.
So this is a communications department
Mhm.
creating this information for the Arts Commission website.
Yes. Yeah.
You know,
And of
speaking
course,
of the
I mean,
website,
she's been busy.
I don't know if everyone has seen it, but Whidbey Island Tourism, Sherry White and Jack Palin did a piece on the art in Oak Harbor, and it's done very well. Kit was interviewed. He was a past commissioner, and it highlights a lot of all the art that's already in existence. Of course, it wouldn't include the founders installation or the tower because they're newer. But I'd love to share that with you. At the very least, I'd ask Sabrina to get that on a page, but we don't even have a page at the city. Like we don't even have a page to put this simple video up. But I'll email that out to all of you so you can see it. It would be at least a start for some presence online.
Well, if I remember correctly, so we've started gathering images and things like that, but Sabrina was pretty clear in that she needed either decent enough resolution. The pictures that we have in the OneDrive aren't labeled, so I don't know that Sabrina would have the time to be able to look through each individual and see if it's the right fit. And so I some of that responsibility really does lie on us as a commission and making sure that that she's got content to be able to even put up on the website and not just something for Angel. So, you know, I think that we all need to hold ourselves a little accountable for that, because when I look through the OneDrive, we have a bunch of pictures and there's no rhyme or reason to what they are, what they're relevant to. And I've gone through and created folders for a bunch of them, everything that's on the PDF for the Arts Commission that's on the city's website. But we need to be proactive in that that's where images, even through the Angel process and things like that we're making sure that those are there, because that's where Sabrina's going to be able to pull what she needs for the website from.
Another thing that is something to just kind of be aware of is L&I and safety violations. So one of the pictures I had was, it had a picture of the acorn, but also a propane tank and a dog. And, you know, so I just used a markup tool and just kind of marked up over that stuff. Yeah, something just kind of be aware of for images.
Where's the OneDrive at?
I'll set that. Oh yeah.
It's the same OneDrive that we used before. Gideon sent it out last November, and that's where the list of like where we can all sign up to either work on the write-up or photos or things like that. And so if we all just bookmark it, then we'll be able to access it and not necessarily have to tap Gideon each time to resend it.
I think I didn't get that.
Yeah, and Joanna needs that as well. Yeah, thanks.
Like what? Just the OneDrive.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm too nosy. I know it's all inside.
Thank you.
Oh. Any other questions?
I guess for next meeting, do you want to kind of plan maybe 2 weeks out or something? That way we could kind of tackle some of these action items.
Does anybody have a problem with another meeting within an August? Not September?
I'm in favor of monthly meetings, but I have to say I'm pretty tapped between activities going on until
August is not good.
Yeah.
Actually, August is, I think, for everybody. I think I went to Chamber today. The number of events, volunteering, and other stuff that is here in the community in the month of August is pretty daunting.
That's okay. We could stay to our normal.
And so I think probably September would probably still be the best after winding down from all of that. At least it'll give us some back end time to kind of collect ourselves. Anybody else agree with that? I know Cynthia does. So there's Mary and
yes.
Mary and Andy see.
Wonderful.
So I guess we can probably just kind of redo the agenda for the next time. It's almost a repeat. We didn't. And then Mikhail's going to send the bylaws, and then we can look at that too. And I don't know, an hour is not enough.
So
That's a good point. Okay.
the next regular meeting will be
An hour.
September 8th. Is that correct?
I believe
that's
so. Was
the
that
first.
is that the
Second would
second
be
Thursday?
the 15th.
Yeah, maybe 9, maybe 15.
Ooh, I'm not here.
You're not here on the 15th?
The second Thursday is the 8th.
I'm not here.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I
Second
missed the
Thursday,
first
second Thursday.
COVID brain.
Okay, September 8th.
Thank you for chairing tonight, Mary.
Thank you for suffering through me, you guys.
They did one.
Thank you.
It's good to see everybody. I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Maybe we. I second.
Goodbye.
Oh, all in favor. Okay.